Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Bessecarr. It's an E625. So we're starting at the bonnet here. Got your engine battery over here on the left hand side. Brake fluid just attached to the servo just there at the back. Engine oil goes in through here through this top cap, and your engine oil dipstick is this orange topped one just down here. Power steering fluid sits in this reservoir at the top, and your engine coolant sits over here on the right, and you can see there the engine's cold and you're right there between the minimum and maximum, and so that's the perfect level for that. Washer fluid sits over here in this reservoir over on the right, and your air filter sits inside this box just here with these little clips, so they just pop out like that. Your sort of the weight plate that you go off is this one just here, so it's a Swift Group one. So you got the original Fiat one, which is for the base vehicle, the van, and then you got your Swift Group one, so this is like the uprated version or the newer version of it. So your weight is 3,400, so you can drive that on any car license. But yeah, so that's the one you go off just there. Your diesel filling point is this one just in here, and you will need your ignition key to get into that. To close that over, you just literally push it on the left hand side like that and it opens up. You have got a little locker just down here, which is kind of like for wet storage and whatever you like really, which pushes away all the way back like that. And then you got these keys just here. I'll just show you. One of these ones here to do that with. So you literally just turn it whichever way it'll go, like that. That locks it up. Whichever way it'll go there, like that. So that's how you lock those up, just with this little circular key here. You've got this little Fiamma D-lock just here, so when you got the door shut, I'll just show you. Close the door over, you can put that across there, and then you will not be able to open this door up. They're really, really strong. So that's what that's for. Fridge vents, so I've got the fridge lit up on gas at the moment, and I can feel a little bit of warm air coming out through this little vent just here, which is just a way of like double checking it's definitely working basically. Let's just see if there's anything here. So wastewater drain is that one just there. So you want to drain out your wastewater, which we can just check quickly. Just basically turn that around. Oh, so that was in the open position there, so there's no wastewater to drain out as of yet. The tow bar bike rack, I'll be putting that together in just a minute after the video, and I'll put that on there so it's all ready to go. Back of the vehicle, obviously, you know, really good condition. There's no nasty sort of notches or anything like that. Yeah, all sorts of bits and pieces really. Your freshwater inlet is this one just here. So unlocking that is literally just push in and round to the left, and then it should come out. And to lock it, in and round to the right until it stops, and then it'll be one of your keys that looks like this. So the other one, key in there, and then just turn it until it stops, and then you won't be able to take that out. There. Your boiler is this sort of this vent just here, so it's a Carver Cascade. To drain it out, you've got this little drain tap down here, so your big flathead screwdriver to undo that. And once you've got that all the way out, you've got this little sort of air pressure valve here at the top as well. So the same flathead screwdriver, just slowly turn it and it will just pop out, and then you'll be able to get all of it out. Gas locker, so you've got space in here for 2 of these 6 kilo propane bottles. I'm not sure whether or not, it looks like you might fit a 13 in there. You probably would actually, but it's, you know, easier really to stick with these 6 kilos. So this bottle here is full, or very, very nearly full actually. So this would last you quite a while anyway. I've got it on at the moment obviously, because I've got a few things on to show you, but turning the bottle on is anti-clockwise around to the left, so that turns it on, and clockwise around to the right turns it off. But again, I'll leave it on for the moment. Your regulator, it's a hand wheel regulator, so you go round to the left to tighten it up, and round to the right to loosen it off. So when you finish with this bottle, when you want to switch over to another one, just literally undo that hand wheel by going around to the right, take it off, screw it onto your new one, tighten it up. You'll see when you take it off, there's a little rubber seal in there, so you don't have to go crazy tight on it, but you know, just enough to sort of make it a little bit sort of firm on there. So you've got 2021 on your pigtail, oh well, not pigtail, flexible hose. So you've got till 26 to replace that. A load of storage in here. This is actually underneath your wardrobe. So when you get on, well, when we get on the inside, I'll show you. But yeah, this is the underneath of your wardrobe. So if you wanted to open this piece out, you can actually have the wardrobe going all the way down to this bit of floor instead. So it's up to you how you want it really. But sort of various pipes and bits and pieces. This should all be water related. So that's that. Hookup point. So if you had your hookup cable available, you should have it plugged in there, and that'll give you access to all your 240 volt sockets, and your charger will come on and start charging up your Ledger battery straight away. Let me just see if there's anything else under here. I don't think there is really. The actual van itself as well, by the way, is in really good nick. There's no, it's not sort of horrible and rusty. So yeah, it's good. Toilet cassette locker. I do need to put a little bit more fluid in here because I just heard it run out a minute ago when I was using it just to test it. But this is where you put your flush fluid in. So you can see there, that's your pink fluid. And once you've filled that up, check your little gauge just here. It should be about there basically. So that's your flush fluid. To take the toilet cassette out, push down on this little button and then it'll just come out. All you need to know really is that you drain it out from here. So you literally pop this little cap off. You drain your toilet cassette out from here, and then once you've drained it, your blue fluid goes back inside there. Well, one other thing is to keep on top of this little rubber seal here. So if you've got some kind of a silicone lubricant, just like even like WD-40 really would do it, but silicone lubricant is better because it's like a silicone seal. Keep on top of that. Just keep that lubricated. You'll find it, you know, if you don't do that, it will stick and it won't move very freely. So when you try to put it back in, you'll find it won't go in properly. And the other thing I was going to say was when you're draining it out from here, you've got this little yellow button at the back. Push and hold on that little yellow button when you're actually emptying it out from there. It's like an air pressure release valve, so you'll find it much easier. And again, to lock that one up, so I need to go back in there now. You've got this little silver key. So key in, turn it to where it will go and take it out. Now you can't push that button in, and so you can't open the locker. So, in the cab, got a couple of bits and pieces, not a huge amount to show you to be honest, but a 5-speed manual gearbox, reverse is down to the bottom right hand side. Hazard lights, and at some point in the past they've had this little light fitted. I'm not really sure why, because the only reason you need to do that is if this light here wasn't working, but it is, so I don't know why they've done that, but it's there anyway. You've got all your fan settings or your heater settings, so you've got fan speed setting here, temperature, and where the air goes to just there. You've got a reasonably new looking JVC single DIN head unit there, so you've got USB, aux, CD, all that sort of stuff, obviously radio as well. Various bits and pieces really. The main bit I want to show you really, most of it's self-explanatory, but on this vehicle, this chassis on the motorhomes, it's a bit awkward. You've got the indicators here on this front stalk, and your main beam headlights and flashing is on this back stalk. So when you go to indicate, make sure that you use the front one instead of the back one, because it won't do anything. If you use the back one, it won't do anything at all. Washers with wipers on the right hand side, and your lights, turning your lights on, so side lights, main beam, and your headlight aim assist is there. So you can basically leave that on 0 unless you're towing something, basically, is the idea. But yeah, so there's not really much else to show you, to be honest, I think. The bonnet release is this one just down here. I've already got that open out, obviously. So, Right, so we jump in the back here. I'm going to start over here because this is your control panel. This is like the main bit that you're going to come to really when you first get into the van. So on the left hand side here, you've got this little sort of rocker switch. It's aiming down at the moment towards the little caravan symbol, and that's where it needs to be if you want to use the van, sort of, you know, if you want to turn your lights on and you want to do that sort of thing. Light turns on there now because I've got it switched down to the leisure battery function, which is what the caravan symbol is. If I had it pushed up to the top to the little van symbol, that light would still come on, but it would actually be being powered by the engine battery, which is why you've got the van and the caravan. And so the reason you don't want that is probably obvious, but if you run all your lights and all the things in the back end of the vehicle from the van battery, then eventually you're going to run your battery down. You won't be able to start the vehicle up. So if you're going to use your lights and you're going to use anything at all really, you need to be down on caravan, so that's your leisure battery. If you look up here, when you turn it on to this one, it tells you straight away the condition of your battery. So it's right up the top at in the green. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's got a solar panel on it, but again, I might be wrong. Oh no, there you go. So yeah, you got solar on here, so that's what that little thing is there, with the little green light on it. So that's why the battery voltage is so high, even though I've not got a hookup cable plugged into the vehicle. If I had a hookup plugged into the van, that would make sense because the charger would be on and charging the battery up, but there's nothing plugged into it at the moment. I've got lights on, I've got the boiler on, I've got all sorts on, and it's still right up there at the top. So your solar panel is working really well, sending power from there to your leisure battery, keeping it all topped up all the time. The next one is your water pump switch. That's on at the moment, so the way it is now, so facing down, is on, and so that means that basically you have all the pressure at all your taps in the vehicle, and it also means the fact that it's not running and I've got it switched on at the moment means that you're up to pressure basically. So if I pull the tap, water comes through over to the hot, water's still coming through. I've had the boiler on for about 15 minutes now. Let's just see. Yep, there you go. It's already warm. You probably won't be able to see it. In fact, it's actually already hot. I've literally had it on about 5 minutes before I started the video and it's already hot. So that's how good those Carver water heaters are. So quickly want to run you through, if you when you first get into the van, basically, if you had the newer boilers that you can't that have got like an automatic dropout on them, which yours hasn't, sometimes it's really useful to come into the van and turn the pump switch on and just pull the water through on the hot side to make sure that you've got water in the boiler. If there was no water in the boiler, when you pull the water through on the hot side, you won't get anything come through the tap. But on yours, because your dropout, your drain on the boiler is actually a manual one, you'll know whether or not it's empty or full because you would have emptied it, if that makes sense. But if you have emptied it out and then you put the screw back in and you want to fill it back up, the only way to do that is to turn that pump switch on, assuming you've got some water in your fresh tank, obviously. But it's to turn that pump on and just pull the hot water through and just wait for the water to come back through again. Because when that boiler's empty and you just want to fill it back up, for like a minute or two, you won't get any water coming through the hot side of the tap because it will just be filling the boiler up first. When the water starts coming through again, that's when you can know that it's definitely full up and you can just start using it normally. But that's it. Because you've got a manual drain, then you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Just make sure that you fill it back up again in the way that I've just shown you after you've emptied it. So the one to the right there, you've got your water level sensor. So wastewater, when you push up on that, it will show you your wastewater level. And obviously that's empty because I've got, you know, like I showed you outside, it's in the open position, the drain. So that's empty. And it will also show up probably, there you go, empty on your fresh tank because there's not much water in it whatsoever. So that's how you check that, but that's your water level there. Underneath that, you've got water heater. It says water heater on it there. And, well, these are both for your water heater, basically. So these are both Carver water heater. The one on the right here with the little green light on it is the gas way of lighting it up. So I've got the gas on at the moment, so I've lit it up on gas. I'll turn it off for a minute just so I can show you how to use it properly. So assuming you've checked that your boiler's full, turn your gas on and then literally just do this. Press the button, green light comes on, and if it stays on, the boiler's lit and working. You shouldn't get any problems with this really, because they're so reliable. We don't tend to get any problems with them. If your battery level is too low to light it up, you get the light on below that. And if the flame doesn't quite light up for whatever reason, you get that one come on at the bottom. If you get that one, that it's more likely that you get the one on the bottom because you've got the solar panel. But if that flame fail light does come on, the one at the bottom there, it's not any reason to panic whatsoever, because these carber heaters, if they haven't been used for a couple of weeks or so, it's actually more likely that it will fail first go, because they just take a little while for the gas to get to them. So if it does come up with that saying it's failed, just literally turn it off and turn it on again twice, 3 times. You know, it's quite normal. So just do that a couple of times before you sort of think about, like, you know, maybe like phoning us and asking what's wrong with it. It is quite normal for that to happen. Although saying that, it has been sat since before the weekend and it's just lit straight up first time for me. So, you know, it might happen, it might not. The switches to the left there, again, it says water heater on it, but that's your way of using it on the 240 volt. So if you had your hookup plugged in and you didn't have any gas, you could literally just turn that button on there and the electric element inside the boiler would heat the water up inside of it instead. You can use them both at the same time because they're separate switches, but in all honesty, there's really no reason to do that because the gas heats it up in about, well, as you can see, about 15 minutes it took to heat the water up inside that boiler. So if you've got access to both, just use it on the gas. It's only really if you don't have any gas and you do have a hookup plugged in that you'd use this, to be honest. It'll probably take about half an hour or so to get the water hot on this, but you know, it's up to you how you want to use it. I'll turn that off for now. 240 volt socket, 12 volt point and an aerial point. So really, when Swift, Bessecarr were putting this fan together, they were thinking the TV's going to go here, and obviously you can see there that, you know, previous owners have put TVs there as well. So if you've got a 240 volt telly, you've got the point there. If you've got a 12 volt TV, you've got the point here, and your aerial point, which is all hooked up already to your tilt and turn aerial and your TV aerial booster. It's all hooked up to that already. So as soon as you lock on with this, which obviously you have to do by hand, turn your booster on, your socket down there, your aerial point there will have a signal. So it really is as simple as that, to be honest with you. It's if you get to a campsite and you're not exactly sure where you want to put the actual aerial, just have a look at everybody else's and just sort of copy where theirs are. So it's you know, you can look online and work out how to do it properly if you want to, but in all honesty, if you just look, if you are with other people or you can see other people's ones, just sort of copy it. Cheat. Yeah. Right, so this here is the back of your hookup inlet. So that one with the orange wire coming out, that's your actual main hookup sort of inlet point, if you like. So just be careful of that. You know, try not to sort of damage that wire there, because obviously it'd be a live 240 volt cable if it's plugged in. A couple of 240 volt points just there, and your mains trip switches. So if something mains related was to be sort of dodgy or trip anything, it should do it from in here. If it doesn't trip in here and you've still got no power, obviously do the sort of the simple things first, like make sure that you're switched on, make sure it's plugged in properly, all that. But if it hasn't tripped in here, it may well have tripped on the pole that you're plugged into. If you're at a campsite, they've got these outside where you plug into as well, so it's possible that it just would have been tripped down, so it just looked like that instead. And actually, funny enough, they usually show red when they're on and then green when they're off. I don't know if you can see that on the camera there, but red on these kind of like 240 volt switches means on and green means off, so just bear that in mind. But there you go, you got another one just here, another 240 volt switch which says fan master heater. So your fan master is this here, which is your actual heating system. So if you had a hookup plugged into the vehicle and you wanted to heat your van up via the electric, you can turn this one on. I'm going to turn it off just for now, but you can turn that on and go ahead and use it the way that I'm going to show you in a second. So this is basically an isolator for using your heating on electric. All right, so whilst we're here, I'll show you how to use this system. It's probably the next best thing to show you. So I'll show you how to use it on electric first, whilst we're sort of on that subject. If you turn this on when your electric hookup's plugged in, first off, you'll know because you've got a little red light coming on it. Whereas obviously I don't now because there's no hookup plugged in. But turn that on. If you want to use it on electric, you go 2 to the right to this little electric symbol. 1 more is electric and a slow fan, and the end one is electric with a fast fan. Okay, so you've literally got a couple of elements in the back. Well, actually, I think it's just one element on these older ones. You've got an element in the back of the heater, and what it does is it draws 240 volt power and heats up. If you've got it on the one just here, which has no fan on it, so if you've got it on this one here, well, I'll put it to it so you can see. If you set on that one, the element in the back of here will just heat up and you won't get anything coming out of these little circular vents. But if you go to one of these two here, the fan will turn on and it'll start blasting air through these little vents here, so that the heating that you're getting from the electric element will start pumping out through those. You've got those two there. You've got one in the bathroom, and there's probably another one around there or somewhere else. But that's just how it all works. It's all nice and simple. So that's how you use it on electric, assuming you've got this switch on in here and you're hooked up. If you don't want to use it on electric and want to use it on gas, it's just as easy. You literally turn this dial around to here and you can hear straight away the igniter going. You can't see the flame on these ones, but all you need to do, watch out for the little green light in here. So I push down. When the green light comes on, it means that the flame is lit. So igniter stops when the flame lights up as well, because it's a thermocouple. And then hold it on for a sec, lift it up and turn it around to about here. So you hear that? So it went from its pilot flame, which is this one here, and then when you turn it around and lift it up, the main flame kicks in. So you can hear it already. And you got the green light on, which tells you the flame's lit. That green light will not come on unless there's a flame there, because it's all related to the thermocouple. So that will only come on when there's heat at it. So you can't go wrong on that, basically. So the gas flame's on and this is heating up nicely. Then all you want to do is go 1 to the right to where it's just got a fan, and then you get your air coming out through these vents again. So after about 5 minutes or so, you'll have hot air pumping out through those vents. Another tip for you, well, a couple of things. These heaters get so hot that you cannot put anything over the front of them. They get way too hot to sort of like hang clothes over and all that sort of stuff. It's not like a radiator. There's no water inside of this. It's literally just a gas flame and then metal. So once you've had this on for a little while, please don't touch any of this or anything like that. Just try not to go too close to that at all. But also, having the fan on here, because a lot of these don't have a fan, it's just because it's a nice sort of quality vehicle. These ones came with a fan. If you're going to turn it off on the gas after sort of like 10, 20 minutes, whatever like that, I would advise turning it off on the gas, which is as simple as that, just turning it all the way around to there, and just leave that fan running for a little while, because it's sort of like, it sort of just keeps on pumping out hot air for quite a while after you turn it off. And you'll find if you turn the fan straight off, the amount of heat that comes out through the front of these is unbelievable. So just as a sort of caution really, or a bit of a tip, just leave the fan running for sort of 5 minutes or so after you turn it off. And even after 5 minutes, when you turn it off, you'll still be impressed how much heat is still there. So yeah, it's just a bit of a tip. Leave the fan running for a little bit and then switch it off. So that's how you use your heating. Underneath here, you can see there is what I was saying about the outside locker. So you can actually take this piece of wood out and have it so that you could stand really tall things in this wardrobe if you wanted to. Your battery charger, is that one just there, and you can see it's got the on switch on the top there. It's on. You can leave that on because as soon as you plug the hook up in, it'll just start working. And you've got two gas isolators just there. They've got color codes on them, so red is water heater and white is space heater. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from either of those two things, you can do it from those two there just by turning them 90 degrees. So that's all that's in that cupboard really. In the bathroom, light switch for the bathroom is that one there. That does those lights up there. Your shower, basically, you've got the sink here. It actually pulls out to make the shower as well, and that just basically pulls out and hooks in up there. But to actually make it work, you've literally got these two over here. So turning that pulls the hot water through. Turning that turns the cold water. Drains straight out down to your waste tank. And your toilet cassette, again, I told you already that I'm going to fill up the flush fluid a little bit because it was too empty. But push down on this to have your pump sort of like put through your flush fluid, and then to empty it out, twist it. So twisting that opens the flap up and goes into the cassette. And make sure that you close that back over again when you're finished. If you don't close it back over, the cassette will be stuck and you won't be able to take it out from outside. But yeah, it's all pretty straightforward in the bathroom. If I'm honest with you, you'll get the hang of this really, really quickly. But yeah, right. I'll show you the fridge next. So these are three-way fridges. So probably work out that it means it works 3 different ways. On the left-hand side here is all your electric sort of functions on the fridge, and this on the right is all to do with the gas. So I've actually got it lit on gas at the moment, and you can see that because I've got the gas flame pointing towards this little symbol here. So I'm going to turn it off. When I turn it off, this little light over here will start flashing at me, and when it does, you'll be able to hear that the igniter starts at the same time. So it'll be flashing when the igniter's clicking. Oh, actually, that doesn't have a light in it, that one. Okay, so that's one of the earlier ones. It was my fault. So basically, when you turn this on, you can hear the igniter clicking in the back. Yeah, you can hear that on the video. So you quite literally just need to do this. Turn that igniter switch on so that you can hear the igniter. Push and turn around to the left. The igniter stops straight away because it's lit straight up. Hold it on for a minute. Well, not a minute, but a couple of seconds. And then let it go. If that igniter stays off and you can't hear it clicking, then that's definitely lit. The other way you can check it is by going outside to the vent like I showed you. Put your hand over the top right hand side there. Or if it's one of those fridges, which it is, it's got a little hole down there, which if you look closely enough, you'll be able to see a little gas flame in. Somebody at some point has made these little shelves as well, by the way, which is really, really nice because they're normally great big metal ones, but somebody's made them in the past. It looks quite nice actually. But yeah, so that's how to light it up on the gas. Again, I'm going to turn it off now. Igniter starts again, you can hear it straight away. Turn that igniter switch off, and then that's all the gas off. The electric ways of using the fridge, the green one, if your hookup was plugged into the vehicle, you can literally just turn that green one on and it should light up. Turn this right up to 7 and leave it to do its thing. That is literally as simple as it gets. Literally just plug the hookup in, turn the green switch on, and then the element in the back of the fridge will start heating up and then in turn cooling the fridge down. And the red one is for when your engine's running and you're driving. So the way that you have to use a fridge, right, is either get it cold first, perhaps the night before you go away, with all of your stuff inside of it so that it's all pre-cooled, and then just switch over to the 12 volt for when you're driving. The reason you have to do that is because the 12 volt element in the back of the fridge is not powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself. You have to pre-cool it first, otherwise when you get to where you're going, even if that 12 volt element's been on the whole time, it won't have changed. It's like the fridge won't be cold, basically. So you have to make sure that you pre-cool it first, either via the electric element or the gas. And then when you get to where you're going, after you've had this on whilst you're driving, switch it back to one of those two again. Bit of a tip again, if you want to just leave this 12-volt switch on, you can do. It's not going to draw any power until you start the engine up. So, in my opinion, if you just leave that red switch on, it will just turn on every time you drive, so that you can't really forget to do it. You literally start the engine up and that'll start working. So, if you want to leave that on like that, you can do. It's not going to draw any power from anywhere until you start the engine up. So, the reason that's okay as well, I'll just quickly run you through it. You've got something called a split relay. So every decent motorhome brand will fit their motorhomes with a split relay. So when you start the engine up, you've got power running from the alternator to the engine battery, like all vehicles do. With a motorhome, you've got something called a split relay, or like a D+ signal for the fridge. But a split relay splits that power that goes from the alternator to the engine battery and sends it back to the leisure battery, which is there under your driver's seat, so that every time you start the engine up, you've also got power running to your leisure battery. So the whole time you're driving, your leisure battery and your engine battery are both being charged up at the same time. So that's why you can use this 12-volt element here when your engine's running, because you've got a wire running from that split relay over to the fridge as well. And that's also the reason why that won't do anything at all until you actually start the engine up and drive it. All right, so that's up to you. I'm going to leave that on, but you can turn it off when you get back in here if you like. It's just up to you. You get your other 2 or 3 gas isolators there. Again, you just literally turn them 90 degrees until they are sort of vertical, basically. And you've got a little code here telling you what they're for. The cooker is really nice and simple. I don't even really tend to sort of go into any detail on these because it is just like any household cooker. But basically, you've got, well, I don't think that igniter there works, so we'll have to give you a clicker for those. But basically, you've got these 3 burners at the top. Light those up whilst pushing in and holding on whichever one you want to light up. This one here does your grill, which is that one there at the top, obviously. You've got what's called a thermocouple just there, or flame failure device, whichever one you want to call it. That little prong of metal just there. Every gas appliance in the vehicle has got one of those, and in fact pretty much every gas appliance in the world has one. What a thermocouple does is it senses the burning gas that's coming past it. So if you light any of these up, the thermocouple is what allows that gas to carry on coming through. And the reason that it does that, just so you know as well, is if you light this up and you had a window open or something and the wind came through and blew that flame out and you haven't turned it off over here, obviously the gas is just going to keep on pumping through, but it's not going to be lit. So you'll just be pumping gas into the van. Thermocouple realises that the flame's gone out and stops that gas in its tracks, basically, so that you can't do that. You can't fill the van up with sort of unburnt gas. So that's what that's for. They're all working. The oven works from this dial just here, and you've got a space down the bottom there for your sort of pots and pans and things like that. Absolutely loads of storage around the back of the vehicle. Obviously you've got these top lockers and the lower ones as well. All of your blinds and fly screens will have been checked as part of the habitation check. And if I just give you a little hint on these as well, if you're struggling to get them to go down and actually stay down, the reason is what you have to do. It's probably easier to show you with this, but I'll do it with this one. So when you go down, you want to be at this sort of position, pulling it back a little bit. And when you get to the bottom, push it forwards like that. So like this. See what I did? So I pushed forwards to get it to sort of like hook on. So it's got little hooks on the car on the sides. So when you lift it back up again, you have to sort of pull it towards you and then it'll come up. Same thing, so pulling towards me and then pushing away. That stays there. Pull towards me and it goes back. Just like that. The only other bit I want to show you, because the rest of it's all just self-explanatory really, is that you've got these little things where your windows open, obviously you've got to open all of these little latches, but you've got, if you see there, got an A and a B written on it, and what that does is basically allows you to do two different things. You can either close it all the way up so that it's completely shut and there's no gap there at all, which is literally sandwiched up against the rubber, or you can have them all there in the middle like that. And what that does is it literally creates the tiniest little gap. I mean, it's literally like a centimetre the gap. But if you're going to leave your van in storage, I mean, it's like completely up to you. You can close them all up so it's a bit more sort of secure if you want to. But in my opinion, if you can leave a couple of the windows open like that, it stops any sort of condensation or anything like that sort of forming inside the vehicle. Because when they're all completely closed up, it just gets sort of a little bit stale in the vans quite often, because they are built with wood. You know, there is going to be a little bit of moisture somewhere in the vehicle. So when you leave them all completely closed up, that moisture can't get out, just like a house, really. If you don't leave any windows open in a house, it will eventually go a little bit sort of stale smelling. So if you're going to leave the van for a week's on end, I would advise you, it doesn't have to be all of them, but if you just put a couple of them like that, it just stops any sort of excess kind of, you know, condensation building up. I mean, this one here is on it, but it might just be because of the way the window is, I'm not sure. Yeah, so that one's just because of the way the window is, but yeah, it's got a bigger seal on it. But yeah, so that's up to you. Sometimes if you're driving along, you've got them like that, it will make a little bit of a breeze noise. So when you're actually driving, I'd advise you have them all over the sort of back there. But yeah, so sorry it's been quite a long video, but there's quite a lot to show you in this van. So when you sort of get out of the vehicle and you want to close it all up, all you really need to do is pump switch off, and then that one there back to the middle so this goes down. Make sure your windows are shut, make sure your skylights are down and locked. Make sure that your awning's packed away properly, so you just wind that back in and make sure it's all flush. Yeah, make sure things like this are down, because if that was up and you started driving, it would just smash around and get destroyed. Glass, make sure the glass is down as well, definitely, it's really important. And yeah, make sure that your fridge door is over, so if you close it like that, I can pretty much guarantee you it will open up when you're driving. But if you push this little button down, it stops it from moving. But yeah, so I think that's about it really. If there is anything else you think I've missed out or anything you want covering again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.